Today on the show, I'm happy to have a powerhouse founder, one and only Deb, or she loves to be called Deb, founder and CEO of Criya. Deb has been featured on Forbes, New York Times, TechCrunch, and CBS, and Criya is backed by Y Combinator and other venture capitals. Deb, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Moshe. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Let's move a bit about your founder journey. We touched a bit about that before, and we mentioned Y Combinator. How did you really like the beginning, the first stages? I know it's a very hard thing sometimes to validate your idea and to really start it, find your co-founders. Tell us a bit about that.
Oh boy. All right. This is probably one of the most this is the hardest part of actually the founder journey, is that first step. So for me, I am an immigrant here, right? So I came here wanting to basically have a job, have a wonderful partner, have a lifestyle that I can support. And I come from a very middle class background at home, so supporting my family and my grandparents and things like that. That's really, entrepreneurship was not even part of my journey.
Mm-hmm.
It was, nobody in my family is an entrepreneur. It was not even like a distant dream.
Mm-hmm.
I actually started doing this more as a side hustle, and I've always had side hustles. That's the one thing that I have always done, like much like you, this is your side hustle. I've always had side hustles, which led me to various paths. So I used to try and do a lot of public speaking, so that was like a thing. So like writing content, pitching myself, like a lot of that was a part of my journey.
Mm-hmm.
Another important thing was I jumped on the creator journey very, very long ago. So I ended up developing about 170,000 followers on Instagram. I ended up partnering with 250 global brands. I've partnered with anywhere from like Four Seasons to HelloFresh to like helping them with marketing content and so on. So I
Mm-hmm.
learned, even though I was doing product management at work, I was head of product at PayPal. My side persona was a marketer. I completely learned how to do marketing on the side.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
And then the idea of Kriya came to me because, like, through women in product and like writing for like Forbes and all that, people started approaching me for advice, and I was like, yeah, like I think that's a cool idea. And this is before Calendly was so big, to be honest. Like Calendly wasn't like a thing those days. So I actually
Mm-hmm.
first went and built the first version of Kriya. I coded it, and I cold messaged on Instagram. I cold messaged a bunch of my creator friends, and like within 100 days, we had about 100 users on. It wasn't called Kriya those days, on the platform. And that's when I was like, and they started running like revenue on the platform and stuff. And I kind of was like, oh my God, like, okay, this is much bigger than me. Like this has just surpassed like my side hustle, and I need to do something about it. Because much like you guys, feature requests, like, can we embed
Yes.
videos here? Can we do that and stuff? And I was like, and that's when I was like, okay, let me try pitching it. I was still at PayPal at the time. I was like, let me see what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied to Y Combinator. And anyway, after that, it's history. But basically, I decided to quit PayPal. We raised about 1.2, 1.3 even before I started Y Combinator. So I quit in June, and by
Wow.
October, I had raised 1.3 million. And
Wow.
believe me, I had no idea what a VC versus an angel is. So it's not like I went in knowing anything or anybody. It's just
Wow.
that
Mm-hmm.
when I quit, I actually was so we build our entire lives around like certain goals. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, quitting means what? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. So my husband and I agreed, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's give ourselves 6 months. I literally gave myself till end of the year. And I said, in six
Mm-hmm.
months, if nothing happens, I'll go back to a job, which I
Right.
can.
Right.
Right. So the idea was 6 months. And Moshe, if I had not taken that leap, nothing would have happened. Like in
Yeah.
4 months, my life changed. And like YC happened in October. We ended up raising 5.5 million. And then I went on to meet my CTO, Danis, who joined us. And like, things took off. Like you guys joined us toward the end of the year. It's like in my head, I'm like, if I didn't give myself those 4 months, actually 3 or 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
who knows?
That's a great
So
story. And
yeah.
the interesting thing is when I talk with first-time founders, they always tell me if I would have known how much work it is and what it will be, they might never do it, right? But then when I talk with second-time founders, a third-time founder, they still do it, even if they know what it is. So, so it seems like you're enjoying it, right?
The highs are amazing, and like my high honestly comes from actually getting to talk to customers, because it's
Hmm.
very validating. It's very painful, I'll tell you, when like someone files a support ticket and said there's broken, we couldn't even sign up. It hurts me because we've literally like painstakingly brought every person in.
Yeah.
So the highs are incredible, but I will be honest, like the lows are very, very tough. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very, very tough. And I'm a
Mm-hmm.
very emotional person. And no matter how much coaching and stuff I go through, I'm an emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to have support system at home, because I'll be honest, I enjoy it. And actively keep in mind that burnout is a part of our journey. So how do we stay ahead of it,
Yeah.
basically?
Oh, thank you so much for that. For opening up like that. I want to ask you what tips you would give to new founders. I think you already gave the first tip of having that support system outside of the work, right?
Yeah.
Any other tips?
So, if you're a first time founder, you're thinking about starting your idea, like starting your business, I think that's the best part of the journey, to be honest.
Hmm.
Because once you raise capital and once you have customers on, then it's a race to, you know, retention, to growth, and so on. And you have stakeholders and so on. It actually becomes a pretty heavy responsibility. Like, as
Hmm.
me as a person, I'm heavily responsible for making sure payroll, like everybody on the team has payroll, right?
Yes.
And there's random things that come up, like SVB. When that whole thing happened, like our funds were held back, like you don't even know the type of issues you have to deal with, which are
Right.
nothing to do with the product and like product creation.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
everything else, right? Recession has happened, how do you deal with it? A competitor has come on board, how do you, like, those are the things that end up. So
Right.
as a first time founder, when you have an idea, enjoy it, commit to it, jump in, talk to users, build the product, go all in, because the
Hmm.
journey changes with each phase. So I would say enjoy it the most.
That's great to hear. Yeah, it's I think that these are some of the things that, and I'm trying to see where it's coming from. I think that some of it is really from your sensitivity and probably who you are, right? That you're bringing those points that other people not always talking about.
I mean, it is the true founder's journey. I'm very vulnerable and candid, to be honest. It's
Mhm.
because what people get to see, especially today, we live in a world of social media where founders are very accessible, right?
Yeah.
Founders are always sharing their stories and talking about things, and yet it is a mask, because ultimately I am the brand to
Hmm.
our company. So I always will put out things that, where we are showcasing things and like what's this is next and so on.
Yeah.
But to make that happen is a lot of work, and
Yeah.
like an entire team, an army of people that need to be with you to make those things happen. So
Yeah.
it is a journey.
Yeah. I think also your experience as content creator really brought you. You mentioned before you became a marketer, but it
Yeah.
also was a startup of one person
Yes.
that you were the product.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to,
That is no,
but
that is exactly what we say.
that's
We are the
exactly what it
product.
is.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you still have to do all the promotions and connect with all of these different companies to become their,
Yeah.
to have campaigns with them, et cetera, and
Yeah.
create content and make sure everything looks pretty and everything whatever your
Right.
um,
Right.
the way that you are as a
The
content
brand is.
creator.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
whatever your brand is, exactly. And it's a lot of work. I've heard from other people before that it's very lonely to be a social creator, and it can be also very mentally charging, and it's a lot of
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. You go ahead.
It is a race to, like, I went through the content creation journey, I think from 2014, I think,
Hmm.
till about 2019, and I think I slowed down after that, to be honest. There was
Hmm.
even a year in between where I completely went off. I shut down
Hmm.
my entire, like, I just turned it off for like a year.
Hmm. Hmm.
um and I knew what it takes. It is very, very hard, because what happens is that you get into it for the same reason. That's what I was saying. Like, it's like a first time founder, regardless, right? You get into it
Hmm.
because you have these amazing ideas, you want to share them, you have a certain skill in the way you articulate, you write, you create, and so on. And
Right.
then it becomes a business.
Yes.
And then it becomes a race, it becomes how many followers, what are the engagement, and it almost takes the joy out of why you're doing it and why you started it.
Yeah.
And then if you're turning it into a business, and this is really why I wanted to do Kriya, was content creation is a horrible game where we are in the
Hmm.
hands of algorithms that we don't control, people who are trolling that we do not control. There's a lot.
Hmm. Yeah.
And why are
Yeah.
we doing it? It's because we have something to say. We have
Yes.
something to share and some people to help. So that was my whole
Mm.
thing about Kriya, was like, we need to get off of this content journey and like actually bring the brand back to us. And so
Mm.
today, like a lot, even when we ran the LinkedIn Accelerator and stuff, I was like, stop focusing on followers, guys. Like, there are
Hmm.
people who would come in and post amazing content and they would get 2 likes, but they had 5 bookings on Kriya. So I'm like, you
Yes.
realize this, right? There is just so much content out there. Like, sure, but if you're offering value, like I'm willing to offer advice, monetize it by actually turning it into something that's actionable for them. So this is my journey. I think there's
That's
more.
amazing.
I think
Yeah.
content should be a means to an end. It shouldn't be the end.
Hmm. Yeah. So really, so really, that background as a content creator, it was not for nothing. It was actually your first startup, and you may say Korea
Shut
is your
up.
second startup.
Yeah, in a way, I definitely
Very
think so.
nice.
Yeah.
Now, what about now that you have these lessons? Also, you definitely have the lessons of how do you keep your own work-life balance. And in some countries, some locations, it's more important than others. I'm from Canada. Here, it's very important.
I love that.
In the US, especially in the Silicon Valley, I'm not really sure from what I'm hearing, but it might have changed. But as a founder and the CEO, you have the power to create a specific culture in your company that will support that and will support really why are we here? Not just we're here to make money, but we're here to really create something um, very unique and create experiences and create relationships. Is that how
Yeah.
you think about it as well?
Yeah. I think the initial team that you bring with you is a very unique team, actually. They're not
Mm-hmm.
the team that you would typically hire once you are even like twice this size. So a lot of like my whole thing with our entire our team is actually, we are very lean, to be quite honest. We're basically engineers, a bunch of engineers, me, and we have essentially one full-time person who works with me on like the marketing side. That's it. But
Mm-hmm.
we're basically an engineering heavy company.
Mm-hmm.
And our whole idea is that we really try to not work on Saturdays and Sundays. We really don't.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried to instill that pretty much from day one.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, every now and then when there's like a support request which is a P0, they may get a ping from me, but I'll be the first one who'll jump in and try to investigate and so on and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
we've tried to do that, but I've also noticed that even though we have set that trend, our initial team, I think they're true startup engineers. They're true startup, like they are founders of their own making, to be honest. Like each piece of code they've written is really their own,
Mm-hmm.
because it's unreal. I'm like, guys, like stop, like you don't have to respond, and they will.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think the first group that brings your product to life, they are a diff. Like I will forever think that they are my angels, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Uh-huh. And how would you keep that going? Because many companies, when they grow, it's hard for them to keep that sense of
Yeah.
initial, uh, energy that they
Yeah.
have.
And yeah, to be honest, I think it's okay. I think when you're startup, it's like when you're a baby, when you're just born, the amount of attention as a parent you need to give to the baby is like 200%. But
True.
then as the baby starts to grow, there are things that you know that are acceptable. There are processes that have been set in place. Like earlier, we didn't have like a support, like there was no support system in place.
Yeah.
Now we have a support system in place.
Mm-hmm.
We have documentation, we have wikis, we have fallbacks. you end up building systems that help you, so that way, like, the team that stays on with us is still getting to work on amazingly fun things, and they're
Mm.
not having to deal with like life support basically. So yeah.
Amazing. And do you see also going back to Kriya and the work-life balance? Do you see Kriya also help the users of Kriya with work-life balance?
I think that's a huge thing that, like, I talk to users all the time, and it's so cool, to be honest. Like, people are realizing their self-worth, right?
Mhm.
We all obviously are here because we have a certain purpose. Like, we're not just doing our jobs. If we were just doing our jobs, we would be very different types of humans. We're
Mm.
here to create impact, no matter whether it's within a team, whether it's in your startup or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think um, motivated individuals can do amazing things.
Mm.
So we are seeing that, like, only, like, it's work life balance starts to become a thing when you're not enjoying what you're doing. Basically,
Mhm.
if you're spending like 80 hours a week doing something that you don't love, you'll start questioning work life balance. But if you're
Mhm.
spending 2 hours of the day doing something that you love,
Yeah.
that's, you don't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
balance part of it.
You'll do it for
So we're
longer.
seeing, yeah, and that's the cool thing we've seen. Like, when it's self motivated, people are realizing their worth. They're even able to use that brand. People have won awards at in like conferences. They're able to show that I had an impact on like 70 people this year. Like, those are all things that are adding to your brand, which furthers your career.
Mhm.
So I think it's been awesome.
Awesome. No, I love that. I really love that. Now, are you open to talk a bit about more of your founder journey from like funding it and raising funds? How was that experience?
Oh yeah. So more than happy to talk about it, because it's a really important topic, and I'll tell you why. Funding
Hmm.
in itself, like, like, raising capital is one of the hardest things for a founder, and like being able to cross that milestone, it's like giving oxygen to your startup, right? Like, if you
Yes.
don't have that, you don't have it. So it's a really crucial milestone.
Hmm.
And as a female immigrant, all that, right? Like, in general, women get less than 2% of venture capital funding each year. So
Only
out of the
2%.
only 2%
Wow.
ever get, like, so out of the billions of dollars that go into VC,
Uh-huh.
2% of those billions go into female founded
Wow.
startups.
Hmm.
So there's heavy bias in the venture community,
Mm.
um, to funding startups. So, like,
Yeah.
there are numbers where, like, and like, I think there's less than 1% of actual female founders who've ever raised more than $1 million. Something like, there's like all of these like numbers. I may be wrong about that. There's all these things.
Even if it's
So
double than that, it's very, very still very low.
it's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
shocking. So the
Yeah.
biggest challenge is, and the main issue is that, like, when I came here, like, that's the same, right? And I quit in June of 2021, right? My biggest issue was that, okay, now who do I email? I don't know. I don't go for drinks with like buddies who are, someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
I don't go for smoking breaks. I don't go like play golf. The
Right.
typical places that capital flows, I'm
Hmm.
not there. I'm not in
Right.
those conversations.
Hmm.
And on top of that, I'm an immigrant. So it's not like my dad has any connections or my uncle has any
Right.
connections. So, like, it's not
Hmm.
even that, right?
Yeah.
So that first step itself was crazy. And that's when I was like, I told my husband, I think we should give ourselves 6 months because I don't know if this is going to go beyond that. um,
So what did you
and then I
do?
think, so I did a couple of things. One is I joined something called On Deck, which at the
Uh,
time was basically just this program where, like, um, all the possible people who are thinking of raising, like, think of starting a business, blah, 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 would all join. So you
okay.
would meet other founders, okay?
Hmm.
All of them are pretty much where you are, or probably even like a step before you are.
Hmm.
So the first thing is you don't feel scared, because when you're
Mm.
all not successful, it's okay. If you're not successful alone, it's a very debilitating journey. So it's the
Right.
first thing we did. And some
Hmm.
of those folks we still meet today on a weekly basis,
Oh, nice.
like 2 years since, like, because that support system is very important, right?
Right. Right.
And then you start exchanging ideas, like, I'm talking to this investor, like, so literally, like, I had a founder who was a little bit ahead in the journey with me. He saw my first pitch deck and he like created Loom videos slide by slide and said, this is nonsense, this is shit, you gotta like literally like.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
took it because I was like, wow, like I have pitched to SVPs at PayPal and so on successfully, but I could not pitch my own idea. So
Uh,
someone needs to like give you that kind of like, no one's going to do that for you unless
yeah.
they've gone through the same founder journey. So one is that. Then it
Hmm.
came down to actual tactical. So then you have to like build yourself up to, okay, am I ready to go out there? Because once you go out there, you're out there.
Yeah, you have
So you're supposed
responsibility.
to be, yeah. So you have to like be very ready to start pitching and closing. And there's a whole like game play around this. To be honest, there's a pattern to how you do this. Like
Hmm.
make a list of all the investors. I think I had a list of like about 150 investors,
Uh-huh.
their LinkedIn profiles. What is my first degree of connection, second degree of connection? Who can I
Okay.
send introductions to?
Uh-huh.
Start pitching them, start finding friends who could pitch me to them. Some were cold. It's a dog's hustle.
Wow. Is
It's a
it also
hustle.
a game of numbers? Like
It
the
is a game of
more you
numbers.
pitch and the more you meet with, the more chances you have to raise?
Technically, that is correct, right?
Hmm.
Because you need one. And I took the route of going VC. I didn't want to do angel. I only wanted to do VC. The
Okay.
reason for that was because I don't have connections. So I didn't just need capital. I actually wanted like mentorship. I wanted connections. I needed
Right.
introductions. Like I didn't have that.
Right.
So I knew going VC. VC for a seed stage company is like, or pre seed where I was, is unheard of. VCs rarely ever invest in pre seed.
Mm.
So I already
Hmm.
knew that it was already stacked up against me, but I
Hmm.
wanted to do this. So I was like, I'll go all in. And that's the thing. Like there's a whole like mantra behind it. You try to see, okay, if you're raising $1 million, how many of these can be $25 25K checks, how many of them need to be a 500K check, how many, like all these, like, so you try find VCs whose check sizes are 5K, whose check sizes are 50K, check sizes are 500K,
Uh-huh.
and then you play the numbers game and you keep pitching,
Wow.
and then it's a closed strategy. Like one is pitching strategy and then there's a closed strategy. Because I may come to you and say you have a great idea, you may think it's a great idea, but you are also like, I don't know if I'm ready to like close right now. Like, is she going to be able to get like other people? Like maybe I'm willing to put 100K, but she needs to get 900K more.
Okay.
Um,
I see.
right?
Hmm.
So how do you close the first? Because the first is the most important. When you close the first, then you can get the second and the
And
third. So
others are coming in. Hmm.
yeah. So when you talk about salesperson, you literally transform into a salesperson the day you become a founder.
Yes. Yes.
Everything is a
Absolutely.
sale.
You transform to a lot of
So
very different things when you become a founder, for sure.
yeah.
And then, so then you got, you said 1.3 even before you went to Y Combinator, right?
Yeah.
Did
So I
that
got
help
my,
you? Sorry.
did that help me?
Did that help you get into Y Combinator or it was unrelated?
No, it was unrelated. It is so crazy. So I applied to Y Combinator on September, which is usually when the fall deadline happens, September
Uh-huh.
6th or something like that. And I closed my first 1.2 with my first two incredible investors on October 10th, I think, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
and the day I closed, the day before that, so YC happens this way. So you do an application and then they call you in for an interview. If
Uh-huh.
they call you for an, like, out of like the thousands of applications they get, they I think invite like 5% or something for an interview.
Okay.
And then out of that 5%, they close like whatever, a couple of hundreds or something like that.
Hmm.
So I got the interview call the day I think I received the term sheet, or like I closed the term. I can't remember
Uh-huh.
exactly what it was.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, great,
So
but
that was
also
the
like why
time.
these terms? So I knew that okay, it's great. This is
Yes.
rolling. So yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. But it could be also that all of your experience pitching and trying to get the funds help you with the right pitch to Y Combinator to facilitate that. Maybe.
That was a hilarious. No, it was a crazy story because I think YC is a lot about conviction of the founder, basically.
Uh huh.
And it did help me emotionally, to be honest. Because at that point, I was like, I've already closed. So, not closed. I had not closed technically, but I had the term sheet and stuff in hand.
Mm,
So there was a confidence because Y Combinator interview is probably one of the most intense experience of my life
wow.
where basically it's like 10 minutes and they'll change your life in 10 minutes, right? Like you
Mhm.
get on a call, it's a 10-minute interview, that's it, and there's like 5 group partners and you are like this one like little mouse on that call.
Is there a
And
way
then
to prepare for it?
like yeah, like you can do mock interviews, and we've done like I think I've done 3 mock interviews before I went in, but nothing's going to prepare you for that
Wow,
because no one's going to be that mean to you to be honest in like your mock
really?
interview.
So
It
it's
was
actually
like
business.
it was daggers. It's like, so what you've done this right? And it's like it was really really, but
Hmm.
that's I think where my confidence, I was like, this is my conviction, like this is what I believe. And regardless, like basically I think my pitch to YC was like, regardless of whether you invest in me or not, I'm going to go do this.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to do this. Like, if you want to be part of my journey, you can be part of my journey. So
Was that part of your pitch, or you were comfortable enough to say it because you had the term sheet?
I don't think it's that. I think no. I'm generally a very humble person. I think
Hmm.
YC's interview is designed to really push you to the edge. So
Interesting.
initially you start out and you describe your startup, you have the demo, and they ask you some basic questions, and very quickly they're like they have seen like I don't know hundred thousands of startups, right? They can sniff the basics out very quickly. They don't even need to talk to me to sniff out what the basics are and so on. So they pretty much start up with the hard questions. And
Hmm.
you think that a pitch is okay, you're going to do your pitch, you have your time, and then they start asking those questions and stuff. YC has 10 minutes. So out of those 10 minutes, 9 minutes is let's start getting into like this, like all the things that don't work for you. So you
I
immediately
see.
go on the defensive, right? You're
I
immediately
see.
trying to like, so
Yeah.
it's designed to put you on the edge. And so I think part of that, I think at some point I basically was like, I'm going to go do this. Okay. So
This sounds
it
so
was
much like
crazy.
Shark Tank. So.
It is. It is. And
Mhm.
it's crazy because I know that I totally thought I bombed it. I was like, I don't know, I'm not gonna get it. Fine.
Oh,
And I
wow.
remember my husband took me out. It was like 9:30 in the morning, I think, the interview, and then my husband took me out to farmers market. He was like, "Let's get you an ice cream," and it was 6 p.m. Because he had just come back from work. He took me to get ice cream, and I got a text message from one of the group partners saying, "Hey Deb, we loved you. Do you wanna hop on a call?" I was like,
Nice.
that evening, 6 p.m.
Nice. Nice.
I was like, "Is this a scam?" I said, "Sure." And he's like, "We'd love to welcome you to Y Combinator. Do you accept?" I was like, "What?"
Nice,
It was
nice,
crazy.
very nice.
Yeah.
I love that story. So, what would be like one tip if you had to choose one tip to people trying to get into Y Combinator? Because Y Combinator is like the top of the top. I know that you wear it as a badge. Everyone that have been to Y Combinators are, I don't know if better than others, but it's a good thing to have, right?
I think YC has like the interview style and the application style really pushes you to think about the real, like you cannot go into YC saying I have a wait list of 50,000 people, I have a this and that. Like they're going to sniff out that crap overnight. So you basically need to be extremely diligent. You almost need to be like a really good product manager. You've thought through customers, like they value the basics, like
Mhm.
how many customers did you talk to, how many of them would, and they, be honest, like these are things that don't work for us, we haven't figured this out. So because they're like, that's why you will come to us, because they're looking to see, one is, are you like a stubborn like bull who doesn't learn? Because
Mhm.
YC is a school, right? They're a school, they're going to teach you.
Yes.
But they want to
Yes.
know that you've put in the hard work, you really really have tried, and you've learned these things, and you're struggling here, and are we
Yes.
willing to help you? So like it's truly a test of someone who is really really ready for this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great tip there. And they also invested in you after the program, right?
Yes. Yeah, and the YC does a standard like investment and like a follow on. Like after you raise your capital as well, they also become a part of that if they choose to, and they chose to. Yeah.
And they chose to. That's
Yeah.
great. That's really, really awesome. Did it? Did you see? That it changed things for you, the program and the investment.
Yes, I think the biggest thing that YC did was, like, I'll be honest, right? Like, for me as a founder who's a woman, as an immigrant, we don't have too many options, guys. Like, we only have so many people that we know. And
Mhm.
startups, a lot of what a CEO's job is also to bring in the right network and connections, because we don't know anything otherwise, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Y Combinator gave me that if I reach out to someone, and because I'm a YC founder, someone is willing to take that call with me. Otherwise, they wouldn't,
Hmm.
right? So whether it's hosting a, you know, it's anywhere from hosting a conference to starting a customer interview to sponsorship, like anything, right? I
Hmm.
think YC did a lot more and will continue to do a lot more for me over my journey, way
Hmm.
beyond those 3 months. So yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice. No, that's I always heard great things about him. I worked for a company that was a Y Combinator after they finished the program. Unfortunately, they didn't exist anymore, but for different reasons, unrelated to Y Combinator at all. So, but I learned a lot over there for sure. Um, nice. So I love really hearing everything that you're saying, and I'm always like, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, yeah, one day if I do decide to start a company myself, I'm going to go for Deb for coaching there about what to do.
Happy to. Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, right now I'm happy where I am. So very nice, very nice. Now, in general, just maybe one or other more question about your journey. You're wearing very many hats throughout that journey. You mentioned you become a salesperson, a marketing person. You have your engineers, so luckily they can do the engineering work. But how do you
Thank
balance
God.
all of
Yeah.
these things, and how do you kind of prioritize between them?
That's a really good question. I don't think I figured it out, but um, I think what I've realized, I've definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way, right? Sometimes
Mm.
I've overly anchored on the marketing side. Sometimes the thing is that I enjoy the most is product. So sometimes I've realized whenever times get tough, I end up going into like writing product specs and creating mock-ups, and like I go deep into it. A
Oh,
big
okay.
part of that's because we go into what we're comfortable with, right? It's the
Yes.
most enjoyable part of, like, it's why I started this. I didn't start this to become a marketer or a salesperson. I started to like create awesome products.
Yes.
um and I've realized I have to keep that balance, because um a lot of what I have to do as the CEO is bring in the traffic, bring in the brand, bring in the, the sales and partnerships and so on. It is, if that's not what you are, if that's not your zone of genius, to be honest, and I can quite transparently say that's not my zone of genius, is product. It'll always be that. So it until the day I can hire the right person to take over those types of responsibilities from me, that's the balance I have to keep reminding myself is,
Hmm.
Deb, you need to produce content, you need to produce, show up on LinkedIn, Deb, you need to write a newsletter, and things like that. So it's all those things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And what about your past experience? Because I'm sure that also came. You are not the founder or CEO of PayPal, but any learnings that you brought from those experiences that you have in the past?
A lot of it, to be quite honest. And I think this is the advantage of being a tech founder, like in a tech space.
Hmm.
um like, a lot of what I did at PayPal was AI. And I have not studied AI or like machine learning. I never have, right? So like my
Hmm.
job introduced me into like, how do we use AI models in customer success? How do we build and
Hmm.
choose CRMs? So my
Hmm.
skill set is largely around networks, CRMs, and AI applications, right?
Hmm.
So I oftentimes will challenge my team also to, like, every time there's a cool idea that we have, I'm like, no, that's outside the realm of like our teams, like what we should be developing for our customers. And I could keep over anchoring on the CRM is not where it needs to be, and so on. So
Hmm.
um, it is extremely valuable. It really
Yeah.
is.
Absolutely. And I'm with you about learning to be a product manager in AI. Is a bit of a challenge, especially if you have a lot of experience with non-AI products. To
Yes.
understand what does it mean, how can I really because we always think about this: if we do A, then B has to happen. But in AI, it never
Yeah.
like that, right? Hmm.
AI actually has totally like changed the pitch almost. Like, it's like entirely new things are happening. So when I was at PayPal, I remember I used to lead the risk infrastructure team. So risk was
Mm-hmm.
like the first like modeling and AI modeling and so on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I used to lead that whole initiative of unification across different. PayPal is a very, very, very big company with 100 plus products, and all the products were using different types of models and different types of like prediction and things like that. How do you bring them under
Mm-hmm.
an umbrella? So you realize how complex it is to actually build a model, to tune it, to detect something, and like it I got into the weeds of like everything, right? And then we were
Mm-hmm.
trying to bring this to other verticals. Like how do you, like, if you pull up the PayPal app and you see the way in which like those tiles are prioritized, it's different for you versus me. So there's
Mm-hmm.
AI, that's machine learning, like it's everywhere. When a customer calls in to like support, earlier like the agent would have to figure out why they're calling us. With ML, right, like we had enough data about them and prediction activities, we could almost tell that this is why Moshe is calling us. He's freaking pissed because,
Mm.
not because an action happened. It's a culmination of things, right? Down
Yeah.
to even like loyalty and rewards. Like, is Moshe going to be okay if we give him a $5 reward, or do we need to give him like a $500 reward? Like, there's
Mm.
ML everywhere. So
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, those are
that
great models.
experience,
Yeah. Sorry.
no, like those, that type of experience is what I can bring to my startup, because you don't get that as a new kid who just has ideas.
Right.
You need to
Right.
have some industry experience to, because otherwise you'll just keep building anything and everything. Like, I can tell you straight
Mm.
away that this was extremely valuable in this particular scenario, so we should try and do this, or this is why we should not
Yeah.
do it, and so on. So things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I have a question also about the go-to-market, because in your go-to-market, you have to basically, many of your clients, or many, or the future clients, are not people that coming from tech or understand AI work or anything like that.
Yeah.
So how do you really convince them, about the value, and that AI is the place for them? I know these days there is a hype and everyone wants AI, but I'm sure that hype will slow down a bit, and still you will have to create that message out, right?
Yeah, and it's a really, really good point. And this is something I have learned, to be honest. I think even my journey has been an evolution, because we are all technical people. We think everyone's like us. Everyone's going to be super excited about AI. AI actually scares a lot of people who are non
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of curiosity about how do I make it. It's this like little angel that's sitting over there. They're like, how do I make it be my friend? Right?
Mm.
They don't want the angel to lead everything, they want it to be their friend. So
Hmm.
that's this thing we've learned. Like, if it's a technical person, they'll almost come in with like, I want to be AI first, and like, if this is not AI driven, like, what are you doing? Versus majority of the world actually is like, can you help me like make it like, part of my tech stack or whatever, like my stack, so that I can use
Right.
it. And that's the thing we've learned. That's why we are changing some of our messaging. Like, as a startup, we're always learning, right? We are moving away from that AI twin kind of a concept, because it's very attractive to people who are AI curious and AI first. But for a lot of others, they're like, I already do this. Like, can you make it be part of my support system versus,
I see.
replace me kind of thing. So
I
we're also
see.
changing our messaging and positioning around how to do that, basically.
Yeah. And that
And
will be
so
interesting
AI,
to
like I
follow and
said,
see. Yeah.
yeah, the interesting thing there is that that's why we're integrating it as part of the entire customer journey, versus showing you that this is what AI is going to do, this is what AI is going to do. Like, let it be part of the customer journey, so that you almost don't realize it, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, that happened. And that's when
Right.
you're adding the light, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and when you mentioned it before, reach, revenue, retention, to me those words makes a lot of sense, but they are technical in a sense. They're not technical like technology, but technical in like this is a process that have to happen in a business or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I was looking for more like you know a dynamic definition of what it is, but it kind of makes sense what you were saying now, that you are focusing on these areas but embedding them within the process.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
been our learning, to be honest. Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. Well, that was a lot of questions. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about or mention or add?
No, I think I'm like out of breath. I'm like talked to my heart's content.
Perfect. So we talked a lot about AI and AI that models that you're building that will create like not digital me because you're trying to get away from that, but in general, helping me to in my reach, revenue, and retention. Where does ethics goes into that? Because ethics is one of those things that we are always concerned about with AI, and
Yeah.
especially if someone is getting information that they think it's me. So, do you have an ethical code or thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I think this question has been like asked to me several times, and I think almost there are so many ways like I said, like it really depends on the use case that you're using AI for, right?
Hmm.
Because there are certain ways where, let's say, I'm uploading information into the model that I am going to repurpose and provide some decisions based on that can influence the course of a lot of what you do, right?
Hmm.
And when we were focusing on, let's say if it's a digital twin that is basically giving out coaching related information, knowledge, okay,
Hmm.
is the model trained with enough non-biased data, right?
Hmm.
Things like
Hmm.
that. Now the difference in what we do, even if we went down that path specifically, is it is your data.
Right.
If you have given us enough non-biased information, you are actively addressing, let's say, LGBTQ and diversity issues, then the
Hmm.
output of that model is going to be based on what you have given it, right?
Right.
Because that's how I was saying, when we're building very fine-tuned models, it is literally shrunk down to a language model. It is not
Yes.
got the world's data on it. So the only
Right.
layer on top of that is your data,
Right.
right? So I think this is why I'm like, the context of it matters. However, that said, as we are responsible for, the company that we're building, there are things that I have had to keep in place as we are building this, right? So our team needs to be aware. So our team is spread across different countries. We
Mm.
actively had women who are part of our journey, who are revisiting the content, the this type of
Right.
material that we put out, and so on. We're constantly seeking feedback. And like another thing that I did was, I'm very transparent about the actual AI infrastructure. Like when you
Mm.
asked me about what are the types of fine tuning, I'm very transparent about it, because you know exactly how we do this. It's not a
I
black
see.
box,
Yeah.
right? So that's the extent to which I can control, right?
Yeah.
um, Things that ethics becomes a real factor for is things like deep fakes. If you're creating content that is truly not yours, if you're putting out an AI twin that you're claiming is you but not you, these are places where like really ethics becomes a problem. It's in the application of it.
Right.
So yeah.
But also when someone will upload their writings, you have to make sure it's really their writings and they're not copying from someone else.
Absolutely. And that's not something that, like I said, like there are things like, I know Biden's administration actually says, when you actually have anything that's AI generated right now, you should have like a watermark on it, things like that, right? So it goes into like various conversations, and I don't think like one person is going to solve that problem.
Yeah.
But like I said, like if you add a lot of content and then you repurpose it, ChatGPT does that for you, right? Like
Right.
you are not even generating content on your own today.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
you. I mean, like people are not even generating content on their own. So I think this goes beyond like me as what we're doing at Kriya. I think content generation and like claiming who's to own it is a very big field. What I can do is, from our models, we can be transparent, and it's your brand. Your
Yeah.
brand is going to be impacted based on it. So yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Any predictions for the future of technology and products?
Uh, I may disagree with you when you say that the AI hype is now and it's going to die. Not die,
Oh,
it's going to
okay.
slow
I
down.
I
It's going to
love
slow
that.
down a little bit. I think personally for me, I think, you know how like mobile came in, and like it is a change that it's here to stay, and it created so many more businesses that came out of
Hmm.
what mobile is. I
Hmm.
think AI is that. I think it's an infrastructure move versus,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, some like cool idea like crypto, where it's like another idea.
Yes.
AI, I think, is actually like a very foundational technology, and I think today there's the hype, there's bots, there's chat bots, there's all that. But I think what it's going to do is, as this matures and also hardware becomes more accessible for founders, I think it's the birth of a new like mobile type of a revolution. And
Mm.
I always give this example. I'm like, like back in the day when we were younger, did you think that, like you're taking a video, like did you think that just like zooming in with your hand was a thing? Like we didn't know. Like today it's a thing. Like you just zoom in, like,
Yes.
and you're expecting it to happen, right?
Yes.
That that's how ingrained it is in us, right?
Mhm.
Like what mobile has done to us. I think AI is going to be like that. People are going to be able to get questions like without thinking twice. They're going to be able to write content without thinking twice. So
Right.
that's my take on it. Yeah.
So behavior change.
I imagine that there's going to be an actual behavioral change in like
Yeah.
humanity
Yeah.
as we're adopting this.
Amazing. No, I agree with you on that. I mean, I
Yeah.
might have said my statement before might have been very dramatic, but I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on another Beyond Product podcast. My name is Moshe Mikanovsky, and join us again. Take care. Bye bye, everyone.